everyone, welcome back to my channel. She says happiness. I'm Mary Ellen, and yeah, it's Friday. I don't know how it came to be Friday, but my Friday hasn't quite gone to plan as of yet. I normally would leave Henry into nursery in the mornings and just have a few hours to A, chores, B, groceries, and C, start a project, usually cut it out and prep it. And then I have something to chip away at over the weekend if I get the chance. But I got a call after I got home from work last night from the health visitor about Henry's 1-year review. So that got scheduled in for 10 o'clock this morning. So he's only just gone into nursery there just after 11 o'clock for a few hours, more for the playtime and the fun with his little friends than anything else. And I thought, well, I've picked up the things that I needed to do on my way home. I had originally planned to drop him off first thing in the morning and go back to Crossstitch in Carrickfergus, which is where I was this time last week. But yeah, that was a happening in the morning or not happening at all kind of scenario. So I'm now just here having a quick cup of coffee, recharging myself. But I thought before I started cutting, and that's what I'm planning to do for the next hour, is cut out 2 or 3 projects, I thought I'd come on, have a little bit of a chat. So you can see whereabouts I am. I have finished the Georgie that I was talking about last week. Got it finished sooner than I thought. I just haven't got back onto YouTube. I haven't had time to vlog or do anything thereafter. So I'm going to hopefully get some pictures of that, and I'll be able to slot those into this video before I upload it so you can see what it looks like. But if you come here regularly, you'll know I've made it before. You'll know my love for this pattern. You'll know what it looks like on me. But yeah, I absolutely fell in love with that print, a beautiful ochre colour, and that lovely bike print. I used to cycle quite a bit actually. Before I met Simon, I would have cycled quite a bit. And when I was working in one of the more rural libraries, I used to cycle into work and home again, and it was a great way of keeping fit. It wasn't such a long cycle that you got to work and you were disheveled. It was actually very, very pleasant, but it gave you that 25 minutes there and 25 minutes home again. Very enjoyable, unless of course it was pouring down in rain, and there was always an alternative in that case. But yeah, going to cut out a couple of things, and to be honest, the Georgie is getting cut again. So I have found that since becoming a mom, my style has completely and utterly evolved or devolved, depending on what way you look at things. So where I would have gone for the very fit flare, vintage inspired, you know, lots of effort type type styles. So, you know, hair had to be done, makeup had to be done. My timing is different these days, so I've kind of adjusted with that. And particularly with going back to work as well, you know, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and getting a little one ready and getting yourself ready, your priorities shift a little bit. I'm not saying I do not still take pride in presenting myself a certain way. I always will. You know, this is as casual as I go. And this is my Colette Patterns Moneta in a lovely stuff fabric. This is my ultimate casual, okay? You'll never really see anything worse than this. But yeah, I don't go for that whole like everything has to be sucked in and everything has to be form-fitting, because essentially I went back to work in September. I was still breastfeeding, so there was that aspect as well. So a lot of the lovely clothes I had that were very form-fitting and vintage inspired did not allow for pumping during working hours. So those things kind of took a step back, and while I wear them now and again, I don't wear them with the pin curls and my hair pinned up and things, and my red lipstick and my perfect eyeliner. So things have changed a little bit, but I have found the Georgie makes me feel incredibly smart and put together, even though it's made in a stretch fabric. And for me, stretch was just ultimately comfort for home and walking dogs, and it's changing a little bit. The balances have changed. So I'm not even just cutting one Georgie, I'm cutting 2. If you saw my vlog last week following my trip to Crossstitch in Carrick, or Carrickfergus, for those of you who are not from Northern Ireland, you're like, where? Not that you should really know where Carrickfergus is anyhow. Apart from having a lovely Norman castle, there's nothing else in it other than the fabric shop, which I will now make the trip for. So you'll know that I bought some fabrics and they're still sitting here, but they have been pre-washed since my last vlog. And there was a gorgeous, you can just probably see it there, grey, black and white houndstooth Ponte Roma. And I think it was like the day after I saw Sew Over It had put a sale on some of their fabrics, and they had this houndstooth blue and black. I was like, do you know what? I know it's pretty much the same thing in a different colorway, but I wanted it. And so I got some, and I'm going to make 2 Georgie dresses out of these fabrics just because they are classic workwear and I can wear them with a tailored coat or a tailored jacket. And I found that that's my way of feeling smart. I could be comfy but smart as well. So that and that's getting cut out, and the little jerseys there for Henry are going to get cut out as well. So yeah, I did finish my Georgie, and other than that, not very much has been happening. I started a little cross stitch. So this is what I'm currently doing in the evenings for half an hour, last couple of nights. You can't tell much from that, but this is the little design. So it's a Bothy Threads kit, and the design is just called I Love Sewing, featuring artwork by Kate Garrett. Just make sure my threads don't all fall out on me. And this is it here. So it's all these little sewing mice, absolutely adorable, and it will be beautiful in a little frame just on display here in the sewing room, which incidentally I really need to clean out. I know people will be like, de-stash, because I have a lot of fabric, but that's not going to do it. The fabric has to stay. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just need less stuff in here. So anyhow, I'm digressing from actual sewing fabric content. Sorry about that. And yes, the other thing I've got now for the evenings is I picked up this book. It's called One Day I Shall Astonish the World. And that has been on my to-read list for an absolute age. And I didn't really know why. I probably read a review or was recommended by somebody that I rate, and I added it to my to-read list. And I was just in one of the little charity shop bookshops the other day, and I saw this copy and I picked it up. There's an excellent Oxfam bookstore in Belfast on Botanic Avenue, and I always find something in there. In Northern Ireland you don't find much sewing related stuff, you know, like lovely vintage sewing books and that kind of thing, but for novels I'm always satiated. So I just opened this up the other day, not knowing what it was about, not knowing why I bought it. I just remembered it was on the list of books that I had selected on Goodreads to read. And when I opened it up, the blurb basically says this: Susan and Norma have been best friends for years. At first thrust together by force of circumstances, a job at the Pincushion, a haberdashery shop in Leicestershire in the 1990s, it then became a matter of character. Neither of them had any desire to make friends with anyone else. So because it starts off with a sewing theme, working in the haberdashery, I thought I'm going to give this a go. And I have sometimes been picking up books that have a sewing theme, books that I would never have touched before. I'm not the biggest fan of kind of like generic historical fiction, particularly stuff based in the war. I always found that it was very samey, but the sewing themed ones always seem to get my attention. I prefer historical fiction that is kind of earlier, so like 16th, 17th, 18th centuries. But yeah, gotta read this over the next few evenings. That's what winter's for, isn't it? All of those comforting things. But the other thing I want to share with you today is that I've got a delivery of a couple of new fabrics. So firstly, there is this very, very weighty parcel from Manura. Manura sent out their brand ambassador fabric list the other day, but this one was too pretty to pass over. And recently I keep seeing like ready to wear or designer clothing that is taking my eye. So there was a few beautiful sequin dresses. So as I was kind of like just having a browse on my lunch break at the list Manura had sent out, this one caught my eye, and oh my goodness, I'm so pitifully weak. I actually have a couple of cuts on my hand and everything I do is just tearing the cuts open. It's really frustrating. Right, let me show you what is inside here. So, sequin fabric. I actually don't sew with sequins. You know, you hear the nightmare stories that you have to sit and unpick them and then sew them all back on, but I like the look of this one because I might get away without doing that the way they are stitched. So this is very heavy, but it's a beautiful, look at that, a beautiful sequin mesh fabric, multicolored as well. So much dimension going on in there. Isn't that absolutely stunning? It's going to make a beautiful garment. Now, I have a suspicion that I can make this and not line it if I wear a slip underneath, which is just as comfortable and as easy to do. The density of the sequins is incredible, and yet the movement, you know, the floatiness of this fabric is absolutely stunning. Let me check out stretch. I actually think there's more stretch lengthways than there is sideways, and I suppose you could bias cut it as well. There's a little bit of stability if I was to do that, but also you'll get that gorgeous floatiness. Yeah, so I've seen a couple of lovely dresses, and if I have kept a screenshot or a pin of those, I'll slot the pictures in so you can see it. But that's not to say I know what I'm going to make with this, because I absolutely do not have the pattern in mind. So if I show you a couple of pictures, if you can think of a pattern that you would recommend to get the same look, I would be very appreciative of your opinion. But yeah, isn't it gorgeous? It's very narrow. It's only like 111, 112 centimeters wide, if I recall correctly. So I have 4 meters here. So the pattern would have to be accommodated by that. But I'm thinking short and kind of sexy anyhow, so it's not like I want to make a maxi dress. But we'll see. I also think I'm going to stabilize this and make a bow bag, and maybe have the bow as velvet, or, you know, maybe the other way around, have the bag as velvet with a sparkly bow. We'll see what's easiest. But yes, there's my first fabric that has arrived today. Absolutely love it. So pretty, but so weighty when you have it in a ball like that. Now, there's another one. Where's this from? I've ordered a couple of things. Simply Fabrics. Again, I fell prey to an email that came in, and I think they were having 20% off all weekend. And I'd had a couple of Simply fabrics on my wish list, and the one that I got, because I was very good and I said you're only allowed one, is a velvet. Gosh, it's actually lovely. Feels lovely. So this is an X designer. They do quite a lot of X designer fabrics, and if you haven't checked out Simply Fabrics, I do recommend that you go and have a bit of a shop. I got some beautiful Kate Spade fabric there when I first started out sewing, and I made a sew for it Maisie dress, which fits okay, but I wish I'd kept it for when I was more experienced. I don't do that, you see. I just get the fabric and I love it and I sew it, whereas some people are like, oh, I'm too scared to sew with that. I'm not scared at all. I twirl, so I have a decent idea of how it's going to look out at the end, but there we are. There is my gorgeous, brilliant stretch, gorgeous stretch. So I can make something beautiful, a bit of structure as well, just with that gorgeous double floral design. I mean, I think this feels quite vintagey, but also so comfortable. And I don't know what I'm going to make with it, but it was so pretty, I thought, yeah, with 20% off, why wouldn't I? So there we go. A couple of new fabrics that I need to find some space for. And I really ought to be ruthless. There are things that can be easily fixed in here. So like I have some So Hilly Jane boxes that are still sitting there in the boxes. I can decant those and get stuff put away properly and make a bit of space. Cotton and twine and a couple of boxes I haven't got to yet. I've lots of knitting things, lots of cross stitch things. All of my paper craft has actually already been decanted and popped into containers, so it's no longer in shelves and spaces in the room. But there's a slight problem. I don't have an attic that I can put things into. So whenever this house was being extended, building control got involved, and we ended up with no actual real. I mean, the attic is there, but it's not really usable because of the way the roof had to be designed. So that's frustrating. Yeah, gonna have to rearrange everything. I have this set up in two parts of this room as well. So I have two L-shaped desks. I really only need one. So I'm thinking what I need to do is get a little wall desk, just to get it popped back in to clear the floor space a little bit more. And while I'm not creating more space for myself, I'm creating the illusion of more space, right? And that would also help with cutting. Or I was thinking even of just getting rid of both of my L-shaped desks, getting a nice big cutting table and just having a sewing desk, which is much smaller, but you wouldn't need it because I end up just filling it with crap anyhow, you know, like patterns and fabrics and overlocker cones that I've run out of room for where they're supposed to be, and maybe get a bit more wall storage. So I do have a pegboard, but maybe I need 3 or 4 pegboards, and that's probably the avenue I need to go down. But yeah, I'm sure there's stuff in here I can get rid of one way or another. Anyhow, I am going to go and cut out my dresses so that I can be productive for at least an hour today. I will pick my little boy up in a couple of hours, so maybe about 2:30, and we can still go out and he can have his baby chino, and I can not have another coffee because I don't need one. But it's Friday, I might have a little treat. A sweet treat. I don't really do sweet things very often, but sometimes on a Friday I'm like, yeah. And if you saw my vlog last week, you'll know that I was like a proper moaning Minnie, and I was complaining and I was frustrated just by people, and my tolerance levels had hit an all-time low, or what I thought was an all-time low, until this week. And yesterday I just realized like I had a migraine from Monday that was just not going away, and it got to the point and I was just like, I need to take a half day because I'm not going to survive a whole working day. So I left work at 1:30 and I went and got Henry, and we just had a lovely afternoon together, and my headache went away. So I know there is nothing wrong with me other than I have to deal with people who probably make it their mission in life to be awkward, to be honest. So yeah, that was it. So today is definitely feeling so much better. I just don't people very well anymore, I think. It's more satisfying being at home than it is being at work, which, you know, it's not something I've experienced in that extreme before. And some of you left me lovely comments last week, and thank you. I loved reading them. And one of you probably hit the nail on the head, and I've gone back to work too soon. So we'll see how I'm feeling. I'll get to the end of this financial year. There are things that just need to be dealt with, things that need to be done. Things are not easy at the moment for public services in general. So there is a lot of work to do, and I may need to reassess and see what is best going forward. I think it's important for me to be at work, you know, maybe even 3 days out of 5 rather than 4 can make a big difference. So don't know if I can be accommodated, but you can always ask a question. But no, I'll keep my current momentum going because I'm surviving, or as my boss told me, I am swimming and not drowning, and it could be easy to drown in the current situation that we've got here with our public services, and a lack of government in Northern Ireland, who for years, I mean, they've probably been out of work for more years than they've been to work, you know, with them refusing to sit and govern the people, but still get paid, and, you know, continue with the luxuries and the quality of life they're used to, just with none of the effort being put in. And that's sad. That's sad that you have politicians who are just, they do not care about their country or their constituents or their people. It's pretty sad. You know, you roll your eyes when you live in Northern Ireland. You just roll your eyes at the very idea of politics, because it's not like anywhere else, and it's almost futile in this country to vote, but it's important to vote one way or another. And when I think of what, you know, our predecessors went through so that we as women could have a vote, I will never ever not use that right. But my goodness, I just wish it could all disappear. And I'm sure it would only be for the better. Anyhow, I'm not here for political meanderings or pondering, nor are you. I'm going to go cut out my fabrics. If I get any sewing done this weekend, I'd love to be back into my habit of Sunday sews, but things are much slower than they ever used to be. And I've actually bought a ready-to-wear dress in the last week, which I have not done since I started sewing in March 2020. That's massive. But just because it was nice and it was a style and a colour and a fabric that I have been planning to sew for a long time, I thought I'll get it. But yeah, I feel a bit guilty, and yet I've worn it twice already, so I shouldn't. And it is okay to buy things because, you know, being realistic, you can't do everything that you want. And I'm starting to learn that lesson, feeling very, very human at the moment. But there we are. I'm gonna go cut out my fabric. Have I said that 3 times already? Maybe 4. But whatever you're doing today, I hope you have a fantastic day. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And if I don't chat to you over the weekend, enjoy your week. Hopefully you're getting a little bit more sewing time than I am. Take care, everybody, and thanks again for dropping by. And if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, and hopefully I'll be back in a more joyful tone next time. Take care. See ya. Bye.